It's your anxiety therapist. So today we're going to talk a little bit about thoughts. Our thoughts are a really big part of why we feel anxiety. And believe it or not, we can actually control these thoughts and narratives to help our symptoms of our anxiety. So when we are born, our body is normally usually fully functioned. We have 10 toes, 10 fingers, our face, our arms. However, our nervous system and the neurological connections in our brains are not. So when we start to interact with the world, when our caretakers come take care of us, when they feed us, when they play with us, when they change our diaper, we start to learn what these things are and how we feel in the moment and what makes us feel better. So Jean Piaget coined the term schemas. We put everything into categories. It helps us to understand the world. This is a toy, I play with it. This is a caregiver, they feed me. This is food, I eat this stuff and I eat this stuff and I don't eat this stuff. Interesting fact, we learned the facial features of our family and the people that are around us. So we learn who's in our sphere when we're fairly young, a few months old. And if we are not exposed to other races or cultures, then the difference can become jarring for babies. So we begin to interact with other people around us and we learn cause and effect. We learn that if we smile, this person smiles and is happy. And if we take somebody else's toy, they're going to scream and be mad. We learn cause and effect when we're toddlers. So what we learn, it concludes to what we get from others. So if we're nice, we get what we want. If we're not nice, we don't get what we want. If we cry, our caretakers come and take away the pain, right? So as they're taking away our pain, they're regulating our nervous system. They're teaching us how to regulate, soothe what we need and what these things mean to us. So when we are children, everything is about us. It's a very egotistical time, just like it should be, right? We can't really take care of ourselves, so our caretakers have to take care of us. And we don't always understand that there are other perspectives or other realities that are beyond us. This is developmentally appropriate as we learn how to fit into our worlds. This can become problematic when we assume things are about us when they're not. We may not understand that somebody is stressed or upset or thinking about something that's really important, like how to pay the bills. And just because they're not paying attention to us, we assume it's because of us, that we are not doing something enough, and that becomes part of our narrative. So all of our narratives get confirmed as time goes on by the world as we interact, and they become so automatic that we don't even think about it as we're interacting in the world. So there are certain styles that are unhealthy, certain things that contribute to our narrative of these interactions that are happening to us. So one example is all or nothing. It's all good or it's all bad. So I just did really bad on that test, so I'm really bad at school. Maybe that was just a hard topic. So that's a very unhealthy way to think. Or mental filter, only paying attention to certain types of evidence, noticing our failures, but not seeing our successes. Our brain is programmed to remember the negative things. It's how it tells us what we need to remember for our survival. However, it can make us feel pretty negative about ourselves and our environments. So it's really important to realize that just because we felt something in the moment doesn't mean that that has everything to do with what we can do for ourselves. So for instance, if we're saying that we did really bad on one test, it doesn't mean that we're stupid. It just means maybe algebra is not my greatest subject. Personalization, blaming yourself for taking responsibility for something that wasn't completely your fault, or blaming others when you contributed. In most situations, every interaction takes two people's narratives, two people's reactions, two people's belief systems. So it's pretty likely that both people contributed to whatever ended up happening, good or bad. They were feeling positive or they were feeling negative. So remember that we probably contributed to the situation, but it wasn't completely our fault. That person also had their own autonomy in the way that they saw things and the way that they acted. Shoulds or must. Using critical words like shoulds or must can make us feel guilty or like we've already failed. We should also not apply these words to other people because it will cause frustration. These people may not feel the same way that we do about things that they should or must be doing. And so therefore we can get frustrated. So let the other person think and act as their own and never think that we should or we must do something, because that can't always be done. And then we feel like we failed. So here's a few more. Emotional reasoning. Thinking because we feel something means it's true. Labels. Assigning labels to ourselves or others. So for instance, I did really bad on this test. I am so stupid. Overgeneralization. Seeing a pattern based upon a single event or being overly broad in the conclusions we draw. I am so dumb at school. I'm just dumb. I just don't get this because we looked at one test or we couldn't quite get information that our teacher had just taught us, which is not necessarily the truth, because often we are good at some things and not so great at other things. We can be a certain way and also not this way sometimes because we're overwhelmed or we're tired or we're irritable or whatever. So we can't always generalize something that's just happened. Jumping to conclusions. Imagining we are now what others are thinking or predicting for the future. We can't. We can't know what other people are thinking. We may think that they are, but maybe they're thinking about something completely different. You have no idea. Just because they're looking in your direction doesn't mean they're thinking about you. So in that gray space between what we know and what we don't know, recreate those narratives to help gather the schema in our head. Okay, people think I'm this. We are craving to get that schema, but sometimes we don't always know what's in the middle, and we have to be okay with not knowing and continuing to get information before we make that narrative. Disqualifying the positive, discounting the good things that have happened or that you have done for some reason or another. Yeah, well, I got a good grade on that test, but it was just a fluke. It was an easy topic. It was no big deal. I'm not smart. Yeah, you can take the good with all of that. Minimization, magnification, blowing things out of proportion or making something less important. So, oh my God, that person is so mean all the time. Maybe that person was just irritable. Maybe we can't put this one thing into that person, or vice versa. Something that you've done that's really good. You studied very hard for a test and you got a good grade. Don't minimize it. You did that. You got the good grade. You studied appropriately for the test. Don't minimize that. Our childhood wounds. So when we think back from our children, from our childhood, we think about things that we think have taken place. And because it's an egotistical time in our development, we believe everything's about us, when in fact, most of the time it's not. So think about something that has happened to you when you were a child that really hurt your feelings. And then think about the situation around as an adult or as an older child. Think about what was actually happening, that it might not just be about you. So for example, the other children didn't play with me because they don't like me. This memory creates sadness and pain and feelings of loss and loneliness. But even if the other children didn't believe you wanted to play with them, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it had nothing to do with them not liking you. Maybe you just didn't look like you were inviting to be playing a game. So think about that moment that you remember the pain and think about what other perspectives or realities might have been happening in that moment. So this collective narrative creates our sense of ourselves. Who are we in the world? Are we liked? Are we unliked? Are we smart? Are we not smart? Are we attractive? Are we ugly? Are we capable? Are we incapable? Can we keep up with others? Do we have a really hard time being compatible with everybody else? If I try, I will succeed. If I try, I will not be successful and I will be rejected. Therefore, I might as well not even try. I am in control of my life and destiny. The world controls what happens to me. That's considered learned helplessness. Most situations, we can at least sort of change our lives for the better. When we create these narratives, we get reminded of these narratives in moments. When we feel like we're dumb and then something happens that we don't quite get, we go back to our narrative that we're dumb. So these narratives, while they're not reality-based, are a very big part of why we become anxious in moments. We're going to feel dumb. We're not going to get it. People aren't going to like me because we're remembering these old narratives that aren't necessarily reality. So let's try this together. Think about a childhood memory that was painful. Think about the feelings that you felt in the moment. Did you feel lost, alone, left, stupid, inadequate, unlikable? And so let's just sit for just a minute on finding that memory, because our body and our brain will remember that wound. And it will come up in times that don't really seem appropriate. And we're not really quite sure why, because that wound is still there. Now think about why you felt this way. Was it due to somebody else or because of your own thoughts and perceptions of that memory? Were there other things that could have been happening in that moment? It's okay if something was hurtful and the person didn't mean to cause you that pain. It still means the pain is valid. We can still remember the pain. However, we can also let it go. The connection in our brain gets stronger and stronger as we interact with the world. And these narratives get confirmed and strengthened to the point where our neurological connections are very secure in these memories. They become, in essence, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Our assumptions create our behaviors, and our behaviors create the assumptions to come true. Paradoxical distortions are coined by Carl Jung, who said that we go out and we assume that these narratives are being also believed by the other person in the interaction. As in, we believe that that person thinks that we're stupid or inadequate because we believe that, and we put that on that person in that interaction, when in essence, they probably aren't thinking what we think they're thinking at all. So for example, you believe that no one likes you, and if you go to a party, no one will want to talk to you. So you sit in the corner and you don't talk to anybody. And then nobody thinks that you want to talk to them. So this creates the narrative that nobody liked you and wanted to talk to you. However, what if others believed that you didn't feel like talking because you were in the corner not talking to anybody? And so they didn't come talk to you because you weren't feeling very welcoming of a conversation. So could that be a reason that nobody talked to you? What if you went up to a group and just started talking? What if you didn't always say the right thing, or something came out of your mouth a little weird? It didn't quite come out the way that you wanted it to. It's okay. Maybe they didn't notice. They likely didn't notice. So don't fulfill your own prophecies of your negative thinking. Give people a chance to change your opinions. What if these negative narratives are just wrong? What if the person was trying to help or just stressed? What if you were lost in that particular material? What if you just didn't understand that topic that that teacher was teaching at that moment? It doesn't mean you're stupid. No one remembers that weird thing that you said or you did. Again, our memory is made to remember all the negative things so that we can survive. And it's not necessarily true. Nobody really remembers the weird thing that you said or did after 5 minutes. They're thinking about something totally different. In fact, they're thinking about themselves. So you thought someone else was thinking something and they were not. What if they were looking at you and kind of glaring? They're obviously mad at me. Or maybe they're just looking in your general vicinity and they're just focused on thinking about something. So in that story that you recalled earlier, what else could have been happening in that situation? What if it wasn't about you at all? Maybe these are just moments. Maybe in all of our narratives of ourselves, this was just a moment. Maybe in this moment, we were confused, or we were lost, or overwhelmed, or feeling shy, or cranky, or irritable, or tired. And didn't come out of your mouth perfectly. You are not great at this particular topic or sport. Again, we are all good at some things and not so great at the other ones. that comment someone made was particularly hurtful for you because you were at a low place in the moment, not necessarily because you're stupid or inadequate, because maybe you were just tired or didn't understand the material or whatever was the situation. Now, let's take just a moment to think about that memory from when you were a child. You can close your eyes, or you can soften your gaze, or you can look down the floor, whatever's most comfortable for you. So we're going to just sit for a minute and picture that child who was hurt by that memory, whatever that memory was. Where were you? What were you wearing? What was the feeling that you felt in that moment? And then you, as the older child or adult, will walk up to that child and you will hug them. And you will tell them how amazing they are and how smart they are and how capable they are, and that they are made perfectly, and that they are worth all of the love that the world can give them. And then say whatever you believe that child needs to hear in the moment to them. Whatever you think that child needs to hear. And then tell them that they never have to feel lost or alone again, because you will be there with them. And you will always love them for exactly who they are. And tell them they are made perfectly. And they are perfect. And then give them a very big hug. And then picture both of you with love and light going from the top of your head, down your face, down your throat, down your stomach, down your legs, down your feet, and out to the tip of your feet. And then hold the hands of this little child and just feel the love and the light together. Let that negativity go. Let that narrative go. You know that you were just a child. And you didn't need to feel that way. And you don't need to hold on to that. So we're going to keep moving on. But if you want to pause here and continue with that vision, you can, whatever helps you. So now that we've talked about our narratives, I want you to think of a few things that you are. Negate some of your negative perspectives of yourself. So think about 3 things that are positive about yourself. I am blank. I am blank. And I am blank. And know that this is who you are. Know that we are not always as smart as we want to be, or as capable as we want to be, or as social as we want to be, or as anything. Sometimes we're not exactly this person. But if we go out into the world and we know that this is who we are, the world will tell us that this is true, and it will confirm that this is true. So we are now going out into the world with this new narrative of ourselves, a positive, more realistic narrative, that we just have moments, but for the most part, we are these things. And let the world show you that you really are these things. So I hope that has been helpful. And remember, if you're feeling anxiety because some of these narratives are coming back up for you, remember that's not necessarily real. And you can tell your body, thank you for reminding me, but I'm okay. I'm not this little hurt person anymore. I don't feel inadequate. I'm okay. And the neurological connections will change so that your brain eventually knows that that's the new message. So keep up the good work and remember that you are mostly positive and that we all have moments that are not perfect, and that doesn't change who you are. Have a wonderful day. Bye.